Do you find the clothes you make or the patterns you draft are always a bit tight? This is probably because you haven't added ease. Hi, welcome to Pattern Making with Lee. This is part 2 of my series on ease, where I'll show you how to select the right pattern size for the amount of ease that you want. Plus, I'll share some strategies how to fix your pattern if you already made it too small or selected the wrong pattern size. This video will make a lot more sense if you watch part 1 of my ease series, where I explain what ease is, 3 different types, and how much to add. So watch that if you haven't already, and then come back and join us for part 2. To add ease to our patterns, we need to know 2 things. Firstly, how big our body or person making the pattern for's body is, and secondly, how much ease we need to add. This is my measurement chart that I use for private clients. Feel free to take a screenshot. This exercise though, we only really need to focus on the bust, waist and hip. When measuring the body, take measurements against the skin, not over clothing. If you always wear a bra, I'd recommend wearing it though. Make sure the measuring tape is horizontal, so it's parallel to the floor, and the measuring tape should sit firmly but not too tight or digging into the skin. Because our bodies are always changing, I'd recommend measuring your body each time you start a new sewing project or pattern drafting project. And if you're doing a project for a private client, measure their body each time they come for a fitting. Often everyone's body changes, and especially for weddings, people's weight can fluctuate quite a lot, and it's much easier and a little bit less awkward if you measure their body before you try on the clothing. So if there are any major changes, you can talk about it before they try it on and set the expectation that, look, your body's changed by a whole size. This might not fit accurately, but obviously we'll fix it. Just avoids any awkward conversations when fitting things. Once you have your body measurements, think about how much ease you need to have. If you remember back to my first video, these measurements in this example are from my general guide for a very fitted dress. But it's just a general guide. As you know from my first video, you need to think about style ease, fabric type, fabric bulk, and personal comfort. Once you have both amounts, you can add them together to work out how much bigger you want the pattern to be than your body. And these are the numbers you will use to select your pattern size if you're using a sewing pattern. Or these are the measurements that you'll make the pattern to if you're drafting your own pattern from scratch. And if you go back and look at the example and see how much ease you need to add, you can see 5 centimeters, so 2 inches, has been added to the bust, and 4 centimeters to the hip. 5 centimeters or 2 inches is a full graded size, and by that I mean the difference between a size 8 and a size 10, for example. So while your body might be a size 8, you actually want to wear a size 10. Also, if you are using someone else's sewing pattern or block, it's good to try and work out if they've already included ease. On my website, I have quite a detailed sizing chart, and if the block is a different measurement than the body, I will tell you by how much. For example, all my pant blocks have 2 centimeters, so 3/4 inch of ease at the waist and hip. On sewing patterns, often this information is under a section called Finished Garment Measurements. It's just a good idea to keep in mind. If you're in between sizes, or perhaps you bought the pattern in the wrong size, there are a couple of things you can do. Firstly, if you need to make minor changes to the pattern, say the waist is feeling a bit tight, you can just adjust the side seam. Adding a centimeter, so 3/8 of an inch to each seam at the side seam, won't affect your pattern that much. However, if you need to make major changes, say the neck and armhole are really tight, or the fabric is pulling across the chest and sort of pulling the armhole in, you may need to grade your pattern. But the good news is, I've done a whole video on how you can do this, which you can watch for free on my YouTube channel. With lots of great diagrams you can screenshot with sizing increments and measurements for the most common silhouettes. So check that out. I've also got lots more ease and pattern drafting videos coming your way. So subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss any.